How to make great television ads. Now this is thoughtful. Hello, I'm Kitty Boo in Shanghai. Our show has tackled the challenge of creating great ads for the Chinese market from the perspective of advertisers and ad agencies. Today, we're looking at this from a different perspective. Our guest today is Antony Hoffman, one of the top commercial directors in the world and now working a lot in China. Anthony, thanks for coming in today. I know you've worked and lived in America for many years. What brought you to this market?
Actually, it was about 3 years ago I got the first opportunity with Mercedes-Benz to do a film for GOK and with BBDO Shanghai. And from that it just sort of blossomed into much more work, and I started first with Mercedes-Benz back in 2000. How it started was just that it became, well, basically it became a situation where I think that the first film was quite a success. We shot it with a team from Shanghai, and I think what was really interesting about it was the fact that that first film was sort of like a roadshow. It was a film about how Chinese, these two famous actors. We did the first thing with John Hayu and with Lin Chiling, and it was amazing because it really was a script about these two, the journey of them from Shanghai into the countryside, and we shot it in a very documentary style. And that film was a pretty huge success right out of the bat, and from that led many other opportunities, especially with Mercedes-Benz when I started working here.
Do you see yourself working in China a lot more in the future?
Well, as I say, it's been quite extensive. The last 3 years has been, I think I've almost done like 10 or 12 ads from almost all the car brands in China, from Cadillac to Lexus to Chevrolet. And it's just been interesting because this relationship has sort of blossomed, and it's been very interesting for me. I've learned a lot about the culture of China, and I've also become much more aware of sort of the kind of advertising that sort of seems to be very prolific in China.
A lot of people know you as the ad director for cars. Is that by choice?
And, you know, that's funny. That sort of started as a sort of I enjoy cars. I love to drive cars fast. It's just my thing. But I think that what happened was that I started finding a certain style of shooting cars. And what I was doing was, which was different to most car commercials in China that I'd seen before, was very locked off, very sort of precise shots, very much tracking shots. And they seemed to be stuck in a sort of formulaic way. And I was trying to shoot in a more handheld and a more sort of what we call cinema verite style. So it became a little more of a look that unintentionally became an aesthetic that I sort of prefer to shoot cars in, and from that led to other car companies, I guess, liking the work and working with many other brands over sort of the 2-year period.
You're now based in LA, right?
I live in Los Angeles, yes.
What brought you to Shanghai this time? Tell me about your work.
This time we're doing actually an international campaign for Pellegrino water, and it's an international global campaign. And I chose, because of all my experience in China, to shoot it here because it's a story of these, we have a very famous Italian actor and 1 or 2 other English actors, and we decided it was all about a character that's jet-lagged in a hotel at night and has an inspiration to cook this incredible pasta, incredible meal. And the idea is Pellegrino brings the world together. So I chose China only because I've had such great experience shooting here, and also because I thought the story lent itself to a city of the future. And as I said, we're bringing in about more than 30-40 people from Italy to help us on production here. But it was really my experience that was helpful for them to be able to understand that this is maybe a great place to set this particular story.
Is China different as a place to shoot in terms of like production? Is it a harder place to shoot, to produce?
In some sense it is, and that is often the bureaucracy of shooting on streets and roads and be able to lock down certain locations, where in the US we get a lot of permission to be able to, or in Europe you can especially on car commercials, you can shut down an alleyway, or you can shut down a road, or you can do certain things. In China it's a lot more run and gun. So often I find myself just leaning out of the side of a car with a camera crew and really stealing the shots, because I need cars in sort of very urban environments. On the other hand, what makes it easier in China is we've found, and it's just been quite a remarkable thing, is that we could build incredible sets and build incredible things because of costs, and also I've found a tremendous production team to help me. And we've created, I think, some incredible sets that in America you can't do anymore. So it's a little bit, on one hand it's wonderful to shoot here because of that. On the other hand, because of logistics in the sort of the real world, there's a lot of bureaucracy, and sometimes we've got to just keep pushing. My team, I find, have to keep pushing to try and find access to the things we really want.
You don't always do cars ads, though. You've done some iconic works, for example, for Budweiser. Let's show that one to our viewers.
They always do that? Nah, they usually go for 2.
Is that one your personal favorite?
You know, it's funny, it's a favorite ad. I think it's actually it's done many, many years ago, but it's a very famous commercial because it sort of stood the test of time, mainly because the concept was so pure and it's timeless, because you can't tell whether it was shot last week or 10, 12, 15 years ago. It was actually a very tough shoot because no one thought it could be done. It was before you were doing CG and animatronics and things, so it was all done real and in camera. In fact, I broke my arm the day of the shoot, the first day of shooting, because I was hand-holding the camera in certain shots, and so it was one of those very memorable, personal and favorite films to shoot.
What elements of that ad worked?
I think that the concept was just so honestly unique and brave, because the idea that you could take animals and make them sort of human in a way and create the parallel of a storytelling. And I think that the people find a certain humility in the film and a certain sense of epicness, cinematic epicness, like a great Western American ad. At the same point, I think what was really kind of fun about it had a little bit of a twist at the end. But that's a very brave agency, and in fact that ad at the time was very expensive. It was almost $2 million to create. And it was like a 15-day shoot because we had to have a lot of time to be able to shoot alternatives, and also because it's horses, they wouldn't really come together often. So it was a lot of technical stuff and very clever camera angles, and honestly a great trainer we had to be able to do that with us.
How has China evolved as a creative market? Say, the clients asking for the same type of thing compared to 3 or 5 years ago? Do they want the same type of things?
No, I think it's evolving in a good way, and is that everyone's sort of looking at sort of the online alternative and to do media that is beyond just traditional TV ads. And I'm often being asked, like, how can we expand this? Can we make a longer version? And I think that's just because I'm a more of a storyteller-driven director. But I find that most of these clients want to have something that lives in an online universe, whether it's 1 minute or 30 minutes or whatever. There's no limit to it, in fact. Often it's just a containment of the budget. But I feel that that's the evolution of advertising globally, and China's definitely in the forefront of that kind of thinking.
But what do you think of the Chinese advertising that you see in the market? Is that more creative or less creative?
I think it's in terms of the style of advertising.
Yes.
I think, Kitty, what I like about Chinese advertising is still in a stage where people are trying to outdo each other, and it's kind of a very competitive environment. As most of the stuff I do is in the car sector, is that literally they are trying to find their own little unique stamp, their own type of look. It's always about premium. It's always about something looking very upscale. I think what's missing a little bit, and I think the opportunity is to create stories which are less similar to other commercials. In other words, each brand has its own identity. So we work directly with a lot of different high-end brands, whether it be Mercedes or Jaguar or different brands, and maybe even Maserati, who are trying to really find their own fingerprint, their own sort of identity. So I find that this is where because of my vast experience in China, they're actually open to some new ideas. And often directly working with the clients, there's also another way we can work, is find a way to make in a more cohesive idea. Because when it goes to an agency, it goes through lots of testing, and honestly, a lot of the stuff I see looks like another ad that I'd shot, just asking to reshoot it. So I think there's the moment where it's going to break, and everyone wants to have a little more of their own. Each brand needs its own identity.
Would you say China is a world-class creative market yet?
I don't think so. I think the potential is there, to be honest with you. And I think the main thing that I'm excited about in the potential for China is that There are between the luxury brands and between some of the more upscale brands, I think they're going to be pushing into something more creative, generally speaking. But I think because it's still a young industry in China, relative to the United States or Europe, for example, I think it takes time. I think creators need to be more bold. I think clients need to help agencies be a little more bold.
What's the best ad that you've made for the China market, and what do you like about them?
The ad that I find the most memorable and also I thought was quite bold was the Mercedes SLK campaign that we shot in Monaco. And it was shot at night with Fan Bingbing and Nico Rosberg, the Formula 1 driver. And well, we can take a look at it, but I think it speaks for itself.
Mr. Rosberg? Direction.
What are the elements that you liked about that ad?
What I particularly liked was it had a sort of romantic notion. It sort of had a film where we shot a beautiful mass ball in some of the bigger hotels in Nice and around Monaco. And I felt that what I loved about it was a sense of it had a film of like an old Gary Cooper film, and a sort of the old Catch a Thief storyline. So I've always been attracted to films that have ads that are more story driven, and I felt that was something that was interesting. The other film that I also enjoyed doing was the Lexus campaign, which we did last year, shooting in Shanghai.
Let's show that to our viewers
Okay.
first.
他们说你太固执，认准了就不放手。他们说你太自我，从不在乎别人的评价。他们说你太苛刻，容不得一点瑕疵。他们说你太贪心，总是想要更好。他们说的没错 ，So what？ 我就是一个完美主义者。全新一代雷克萨斯 EX， 矢志不渝，追求完美。
Well, the Lexus thing is interesting because I thought that was sort of trying to create a sense of one man's identity, trying to catch his character, and then also to try and tell a story about a man and how a car is literally a symbol of extension of his own personality. And I mean, that was a really fun shoot to do. We actually were shooting days and nights, and I actually took a very different approach. I really shot him documentary style. We actually took the actor and just literally walked on the streets and shot it in a very sort of cinema verite style, which using the car. And I think that was a bit initially frightening for the agency, but when they saw the footage and how little light you needed to be able to shoot the car in real situations, it kind of created a reality and a realism that I think made the ad a little more successful than traditional ads, which often are very compartmentalized, and you often see the same sequences and the same shots, even the same roads.
That's right. Are there any creative agencies or clients that you've worked with as great to cooperate?
Well, as I say, most of my stuff has been with the car companies, and I've worked a lot with DDB, and I've worked a lot with BBDO, with Tim Evil and the team at Mercedes. What I'm really trying to do is really try and work a little directly with the client, because I think honestly if the client feels secure, the agency feels secure. So that symbiotic kind of relationship between the two of them, that they entrust a director or someone else who clearly knows the marketplace and understands it. And I think they're all trying to outdo each other, which is kind of exciting for a director because the challenge is always there on each job. Let's presume that one day there'll be an ad where they just say to you, you know, this is the basic idea, here's the concept, there's no reference, there's no other ad that they're using as a reference. And that would be sort of the nirvana version of where I think Chinese ads are going to become. And as I said before, because of the web content, I think that's where the opportunity exists, especially for me, as far as trying to do story-driven narrative commercials.
I know you've worked with a lot of international big names and multinationals. Have you worked much with Chinese local companies yet?
Well, I'm starting relationships right now because of all my car experience with working with Jaguar and maybe even Maserati and some of the more luxury car brands. I would love to extend it to other brands. I think that that's where the opportunity exists, and I would love to presume that in a year or two they will get to start working on like maybe some of the luxury fashion brands out of Europe, you know? I think that's going to be an incredible moment, because right now they're still using advertising from Europe for the market here, but I don't think Chinese are seeing their own faces, their own stories. And I'd love to be able to sort of have the opportunity to try and create same kind of eloquence, same kind of visual aesthetic and style, but infuse that with Chinese talent, Chinese stories. That's where it should be. And that's what I think it's going to happen, but it's still being controlled by the European conglomerates and the European fashion brands or beauty brands. But I feel that's where, just like cars are so ubiquitous here and obviously major sellers, they're allowing the Chinese companies to take control of their advertising. Let's try and do that in the fashion business. Let's try and do that in the more luxury brands. I think that's going to happen for sure. I just don't know when it'll happen, but I'm sure it will happen.
Hopefully in the near future.
I hope so.
Are you, from your experience or your observations, do you think Chinese companies are getting more and more sophisticated in their approach to advertising? Not multinationals, but Chinese local companies.
I think they are, and I think that's what's happening is there's a certain point what I call media saturation, where the images can all be high-end, the visuals are down there. I think what's happening is these multinationals want to be able to shoot films that are more unique and have their own fingerprint. But that is a lot, I think, the factor of the clients not trusting their agencies enough. Because a lot of the agencies they literally show me a film that I did 6 months earlier and say, can you redo this but a little different, a little twist. And I think that we've got to empower the agencies and let them work in a more freer environment so they can create better content and also be able to be free to come up with more unique concepts. And that's exactly what happened in Europe, and that's exactly what happened in America. As soon as advertising agencies are free to actually write bigger stories, they're bolder. Sometimes they'll lose, sometimes they'll win, but generally the ads will then be seen. Because right now, this Italian ad is a perfect example of that. We're doing it reverse engineering. They love China. They think the story is unique, this Pellegrino commercial. So I had to sort of show them more. They are so excited to be here, honestly, and literally their eyes are wide open because they're seeing Pudong, they're seeing, these buildings and ideas that they've never seen, which fits their script. So I think in a strange way, Europe sees China and America in a more progressive way than China sees itself, if that makes any sense.
That does make a lot of sense, yes.
They're seeing the future more than the Chinese actually see that they're already there.
That's right. The industry overall is moving very rapidly towards online and digital video.
Yep.
So do you see a great demand for small screen advertising in the future?
Well, I mean, small screens can be many things, because I think the future is going to be digital content, whether it's on an iPad or on an iPhone or Samsung or any of these media devices. And I think to say it's online is sort of almost like making it seem small, but it isn't small. In fact, it is the biggest disseminator of information. I think TV in itself is sort of becoming antiquated. So let's think about it being, and that's where I think there's going to be a huge, huge growth. The more you can be able to watch little film clips and ads that are integrated into storylines on little media devices on different platforms, I think it's almost like once you build the technology, build the ads for that.
Anthony, thanks for coming in. That wraps it up for today. Be sure to subscribe to us on Tudo and YouTube. You can also follow us on Weibo and Twitter and join our LinkedIn group. See you again.